All right, breaking 49ers news to open this Thursday morning. They have signed their first-round draft pick, Mykel Williams, to his fully guaranteed 4-year deal with a 5th-year team option. $24.9 million is the total value over the course of the next 4 years for Mykel Williams. First-round draft pick, number 11 out of Georgia. So the 49ers have now signed 9 of 11 players in their 2025 draft class. The only remaining players to be signed are Alfred Collins, the second-round pick out of Texas, and C.J. West, the defensive tackle, 4th-round pick out of Indiana. If we want to take a look at the contract for Mykel Williams, yes, it is fully guaranteed, and it comes out to $6.2 million per year. First year salary cap hit, $4.5 million, and then it escalates to $5.7, $6.8, and $7.9 million. You could see here, this is why the draft is the way to go. Mykel Williams is going to be the most expensive 49ers draftee by quite a bit. A cap number of $4.5 million. The other players probably going to max out at around, I would think, $2 million for Alfred Collins. I'll have to take a look at those numbers after he signs the deal. But in general, the draft is very, very cost efficient. And the first round pick is going to have a higher slotted amount of money. So here we could see what number 11 is slotted for. And in the case of Mykel Williams, it ends up being $24.9 million over 4 years. That's $6.2 million APY. If you can get a decent bookend for Nick Bosa, a good edge setter, a young player like Mykel Williams at that kind of price at $6.2 million APY, well, you'll take it every time. It's going to help the 49ers set up to pay Brock Purdy moving forward. That, by the way, is going well. You might have seen the short that we posted yesterday that was produced by Mike. He did a very good job. Brock Purdy is playing ball with the 49ers. I would say he's playing good faith ball with the 49ers, and the 49ers playing good faith ball in return. This deal, once it is finalized, and it might be at some point soon, but once it is finalized, I would say if you're into the APY, it's going to be somewhere in the 50s. I think that's been obvious for quite some time now, and the 49ers are going to be able to fit Brock Purdy into their salary cap situation, thanks in large part to the fact that they've got an 11-player draft class that is almost signed that is going to also fit under the salary cap hood for this football team. I predict by the time this is all said and done, once Brock Purdy's contract is finalized, you're going to see the 49ers with about $25 million in 2025 salary cap room. Remember, anything that they do not use in 2025 can be carried over and will be carried over into 2026. Unused cap space flows from season to season. I call it flow control. The 49ers have escalating costs year over year. They also, though, are dealing with a rising cap year over year because the cap is tied to rising NFL revenues. So they can surf the wave of this rising salary cap by backloading these deals. In the case of Mykel Williams, they didn't have much of a choice because this is a pre-slotted contract, but it still is backloaded. Again, if you look here, you could see that there's a fairly big signing bonus given to Mykel Williams, $14.78 million. That signing bonus is prorated over the length of the contract. In this case, that is 4 years. So only $3.7 million of that signing bonus hits in every single season. He's got the minimum base salary in 2025. You add the prorated signing bonus portion to that, and that's how you come up with the cap number of $4.53 million this season for Mykel Williams. We know what he brings to the table. This is the strong and long edge rusher from Georgia, played the jack position in Kirby Smart's defense. So he's somebody who played multiple techniques along the defensive line, including outside linebacker in a different defense, though. For the 49ers, they're going to take that versatility and package it in a different way. Obviously, the surface level analysis is bookend for Nick Bosa, but then you talk about interior pass rusher on throwing downs for the 49ers, and above everything, you talk about edge setter against the run. 49ers' biggest weakness last year was that run defense, which finished ranked number 29. Now, a big problem that the 49ers faced last year is that they had just a murderous schedule They had a first-place schedule, but they also didn't get any breaks from the NFL on their way through that 2024 season. They had to face 4 teams who were coming off their bye weeks last year. In totality, the 49ers actually entered that season and had to navigate their way through a minus 22, a negative 22-day net rest differential. So because they were playing all those teams coming off their bye weeks, and so many times last year the 49ers weren't coming off a bye week in those scenarios, the 49ers relatively had so much less rest. 3 weeks, more than 3 weeks less rest than their opponents when you added it all together, minus 22. In fact, the NFL produced 704 schedules between 2002 and 2024. And the 49ers had one of the 3 worst schedules out of those 704 last year when it came to net rest differential. So that's how bad it was last year. So that brings us to this season. The schedule is out. Made a big video on it yesterday, and I told you that it crunched the net rest differential number because, everybody will just talk about the games and where they might travel. We already knew all that. What we learned yesterday was that the 49ers have a massive, massive advantage compared to last year. They are not playing a single team that is coming off of its bye week this year. So they've gone from 4 to 0. Now that we've run the numbers, and Guy Haberman did a good job doing this first yesterday, we got to credit Guy. He actually had a spreadsheet, and he was looking at all the other schedules, and I was just waiting for somebody to crunch the numbers correctly because I didn't trust my own math abilities. But Guy ran the numbers, and the 49ers this year, not only are they out of the negatives, again, minus 22 last year, they are far into the positives. Their net rest differential here in 2025 is plus 9. So they've gone from negative 22 to plus 9. That is a 31-day difference. That, of course, is the length of a full, long month. They have 31 more relative rest days than they did last season. So this schedule is exponentially better for San Francisco in 2025 than it was in 2024. On top of that, the 49ers also have the easiest schedule in football if you're going to measure by opponents' winning percentage. Now, a couple factors have led to this. One, they finished in last place in 2024. And whenever you finish in last place, that means you get to play other last place teams from the NFC. So you've got teams like Carolina, like the New York Giants, like the New Orleans Saints on the schedule. Not a lot of wins in between those teams. But then just the rotational luck of the draw. The NFC West gets to play the AFC South and the NFC South next year. And those were 2 of the worst divisions in football, especially the AFC South. Features the Tennessee Titans, who are the worst team in the entire league. That's why they had the number 1 pick. They have Cam Ward now. It doesn't feature a single team coming off of a positive point differential. Even the division champion Texans didn't have a positive point differential. They were even. They were 372 for, 372 against last year. So you get to, just on the rotational basis, you play divisions from the other conference, and the entire NFC West gets to play the AFC South. The 49ers get that benefit, but so do the Rams, so do the Seattle Seahawks, so do the Arizona Cardinals. Still, it all adds up for the 49ers to mathematically have the easiest schedule in football. They don't have to go to Europe. And that cuts down on the international travel miles. So they're number 5 in total miles traveled, with the ability to cut that down even further if they choose to stay in the central or the eastern time zone. I would think it probably would be Florida if they choose to stay in between Houston and New York. That's in early November. So from November 2nd to November 9th, you may see the 49ers not return to the Bay Area. Based on what I'm gathering, this is a definite possibility. Between Baltimore and New Orleans in 2019, that was also in November. It was later in the year. They decided to stay in Florida and Bradenton outside of Tampa at, I think, IMG Academy is where the 49ers practiced for the week. I would not be surprised if they took the 2-hour flight from Houston over to Florida and then took a 2.5-hour flight up to New York City to play the New York Giants in New Jersey, by the way. But we're not staying in New Jersey. We'll be staying in New York. I actually kind of hope that does happen. It would make for some easier travel, not just for the team, but for me over the course of that week in early November. That could also cut down more on the travel miles, which are inevitable as a West Coast team. So 49ers entering this Thursday. This is I don't want to say it's a week off because I'm covering the schedule release, but not heading into the team facility this week. That resumes next week for OTAs. So now the 49ers have their roster locked, loaded, ready to go. 2 more players have to sign their contracts from this draft class. That's Alfred Collins and CJ West. But both of them can go ahead and participate because they have signed waivers, unlike Shamar Stewart, who's causing trouble over in Cincinnati. But you can sign a waiver, participate. They're slotted for a certain amount of money. This 49ers draft class as a whole, if every single player makes the 53-man roster, is going to end up costing about $15 million against the cap. That's 11 players for $15 million of 2025 cap money. I don't think that's a prohibitive expense at all. And they have Mykel Williams under contract. The only thing that could have prolonged this, and sometimes we do see it happen, because the contracts of first-round picks are fully guaranteed. And that's the collective bargaining agreement determines what's fully guaranteed or not. So basically, if you go in the first round, you get a fully guaranteed deal. The number 1 pick is worth more than number 2, number 3, so on and so forth. The value decreases over the round. The 49ers got Williams at 11, so $24.9 million over 4 years with a 5th-year option, fully guaranteed because it is a first-round pick. The only thing that could have slowed down the signing of this contract is the offset language. And offset language is only really a thing if it's a fully guaranteed contract. What it is if the 49ers for some reason cut Mykel Williams early, and it's happened with first round picks in the past, because the contract is guaranteed, and he could sign with another team, but who would bear responsibility, and how would the financial dynamics work if that did indeed happen? So a team and a player, sometimes there's some haggling over the offset language because it does create different dynamics of leverage. The offset language does create different dynamics of leverage in the event that a team is considering cutting a player down the line. So this is all contractual agent stuff. Thankfully for the 49ers and for Mykel Williams, they saw eye to eye, and they're able to execute this deal. They found offset language that both sides were okay with. Mykel Williams, the 49ers first-round pick, is now under contract. Business continues. Of course, they signed George Kittle to a record deal. 49ers dishing out a lot of cash. I mean, they had to dish out not 25 million all at once. They had to dish out the 15 million or so in signing bonus to Mykel Williams. He's going to be getting more money. That's guaranteed in terms of base salary this year. George Kittle getting his signing bonus in 3 increments over the course of the next several months. And then, of course, Brock Purdy is going to get a load of cash up front with a very large signing bonus once he signs his deal. That's going to be in the 50s, somewhere in the 50s average per year in this 2025 offseason. By the time that all is said and done, the 49ers will be back in the top 5 of annual cash spend. It's a lot of talk earlier this offseason. Oh, what happened? The 49ers have dropped from number 2 last year in cash spend to around the middle of the pack of the 32 NFL teams. And it's because they cut some veterans. They cut some B-list veterans over the course of this offseason. That shed some salary. They replaced those veterans with guys like Mykel Williams, who are much more affordable on the cap. For example, Mykel is going to cost $4.5 million against the cap this year. You looked at somebody like Leonard Floyd, somebody like Malik Collins. Those were both $10 million price tags for the 49ers. So they cut that in half. They get a way higher ceiling. They get a younger player. They've rejuvenated this defensive line. Now they've got to coach these guys up, and they have to play hungrier, and they have to play healthier than they did in the past. But that was the point of some of these young players. But you're getting it at a more cost-efficient rate. So it's just good business 101, good economics for the 49ers. And you double down into the premium positions positions that do need to be paid so that way you could field a winning football team. They've done that at tight end. They're going to do that at quarterback with Brock Purdy. And by the time all's said and done, the foundational pillars of this team will be refortified financially, and the supporting cast, spots number 10 to 53 on the 53-man roster, are going to be younger. The 49ers exited last season with the oldest roster in the entire NFL, and they will be entering this 2025 season probably somewhere in the middle of the pack, which I think is exactly where you want to be. You don't want to be too young. You don't want to be too old. You want to position yourself for the long run, but you also want to position yourself to deliver in the short term. The schedule certainly sets the 49ers up well to do exactly that. Fun little fact of the schedule, they're bookending it with games against the Seattle Seahawks. So week 1 in Seattle, Pacific Northwest, September 7th, and then either January 3rd or 4th to close the season, week 18 at Levi Stadium. That means either 119 or 120 days in between games against the Seahawks. That is 4 full months. A lot is going to happen in between bookending matchups against the Seahawks. And it just so happens that the 49ers have a bookending player for Nick Bosa. So the Seattle bookend in the schedule, the defensive line bookend with Mykel Williams, who is now under contract for the 49ers at 4 years, $24.9 million, fully guaranteed. That's $6.2 per year and a 5th-year option. Important business for the 49ers accomplished to finish out this day. Make sure you check out the 49ers schedule release video. If you guys want, I'll do a little analysis of it. It speaks to people in my generation, right? Who plays Oregon Trail? If you play Oregon Trail, you can raise your hand in the comment section. If you want me to analyze the 5-minute schedule release video, I'll be happy to do so. But you got to let me know in the comment section. Of course, check out the San Francisco Standard. We've got the big look at the 49ers schedule, talking net rest differential, all that good stuff, the hidden stuff that actually matters. But I think the meat and potatoes of this morning is that Mykel Williams has signed for San Francisco. Stay tuned. We'll talk to you very soon.